Can y'all hear that background noise?
Nah,
No.
we Gucci. Sound
Okay.
good. Hey, we live, you all.
All
It's good
All
to
right.
right.
see y'all faces, man.
Yeah.
Hey, we
Man.
will waste no time. I got so much feeling in my heart right now, man. Just seeing all your faces together. It's always a blessing, man. And tonight we got somebody very special with us. A man that's near and dear to my heart. A man that, man, I'm just so proud of. Extremely proud of, man. And not just based on accolades, but just proud of the man that he is, man. The representation that he is in my heart, as well as you fellas. I'm sure we all know, man. This man here is an orca. Yeah, he's a big one.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
in the game out here, man, just making things happen. So, without further ado, man, hey, I'm gonna pass it to you, Stu, and let's get it popping, man.
All right. Good evening,
Right.
everybody. We are uh, honored to have Brother Stephen Miller join with who we call amongst ourselves the Orcas, because we believe in the power of the collective, and we know that the pod of orcas, supreme beings in the oceans, and that's kind of how we consider ourselves upper echelon in the leadership space. So, Stephen Miller, brother, thank you for joining us. You are featured in chapter 23 of the Born to Risk Veterans Edition, your chapter of False Paradise. Brother, tell us a little bit more about why you selected the title of False Paradise. And then later on in the broadcast, we'll get into some of the other awesome ventures that you are uh, leading and heading.
Yeah, so I selected that chapter, man, because I wanted people to stop and think. I wanted to kind of grab the reader's attention immediately. That's what it's about when you pick up those books, man. You want to immediately grab that reader's attention, and I felt like it perfectly described my situation that I described during that chapter in the Born to Risk. So yeah.
Interesting. In the third paragraph, you talked about why you selected number 23, and you referenced Michael Jordan, which I know you think Michael Jordan is the GOAT, right? But you didn't pick 23 because of that reason. You said, while MJ is one of my favorite athletes, that's not why I chose it. I chose it because the number 23 symbolizes spiritual growth, awakening, and a walking a divine path. My greatest risk forced me onto that path. What was that risk? And then what was the path?
Yeah, so I entered the military in 1995. My mother, she served in the Army as well, and I wanted to follow in her footsteps. She retired in the Army, and I wanted to be just like Mama, man. So I joined, became a combat medic, served for a couple years. I was getting promoted, fairly quickly. Won a lot of awards and things like that, and the pressures of the world got me, man. I went home for a long weekend. You know how it is on the holiday weekends. You go get the chance to go back home, and I did, and I made a huge mistake, man. So the false paradise that represents, me partaking in some drugs on a long weekend, and I paid for it. So the chapter 23, or the number 23, excuse me, spiritual growth, that's what that number represents. And the things and challenges that I went through after making that mistake, that huge mistake, because I ended up it wasn't a dishonorable discharge, but I did get discharged from the military. So that set me on my path, because, a lot of times people think life is over, after you make a huge mistake. And I just refuse to let that be the case for me.
Yeah. Wow. Uh, Coach, the goatess of the goats, Coach Ross Blaine. Do you have any questions for Stephen in regards to the adversity that he faced and how he overcame that adversity to be doing the things that he's doing? Because we know your time is limited, but I want to make sure I get you in there as well.
Yeah, Stephen.
So when you initially made that mistake, what was like, what went through your mind? You know what I mean? Was it when you got back to unit? Was it a more of a piss test that you popped on, or
Yeah,
was it just kind of
yeah,
like unselfless guilt? You just kind of went out there and I don't know, snitched on yourself. I mean, what was your initial thought process upon
yeah.
the
So,
discovery of your mistake?
yeah, so like anything, I came back and checked back in, and they did a random, man. They did a
Mm-hmm.
random fit test, and I already knew what I did, and it came back positive, and from there it was pretty much over at that point, But I took full accountability of it, and that's what I did, and I didn't let it deter my life, after that. So
Yeah, real good. So, building on that, further on in the chapter, you said, but in the summer of 1997, everything shifted. And you went on to say, it reminded me of moments from my youth, which I described in chapter 4 of my first book, From Silence to Success. Humble flex, right? Your
yeah,
first book.
yeah,
Here's what stood out to me: temporary escapes that lead to long term setbacks. And you and I have had this conversation before about emotional intelligence and it being okay to be emotional and have emotions, but that short term gratification can lead to long term ramifications, uh, 5, 10, 20 years down the line. You didn't allow that moment of gratification and then the consequence from that to define who you are. How did you go from being discharged from the army for smoking marijuana to doing the things that you're doing now? Where did that come from?
yeah. So accountability, man. As a youngster, man, I dealt with some significant loss. I lost my grandmother at an early age, at the age of 7, to leukemia. She basically raised me. I didn't know how to deal with that, man, and witnessed my mother. She was domestically abused. So as a young man, I dealt with that as well. So I had all this bitterness, anger, and frustration. Obviously I went into the military, served my country for the time that I was in there. But at the end of the day, all that baggage, all that stuff I hadn't unpacked. I was still an
Mm.
angry young man at that time, man, and I didn't know how to unpack it. So I would say there was a lot of years where I was still angry, pissed off all the time, didn't understand, didn't know how to unpack those emotions. But I will say a pivotal moment in my life was in when I went to the He-Man conference in 24 around Father's Day.
Shout out to
That's when I
Dr.
linked
Reed.
up. Yeah. So that's when I linked up with T.O. and Dr. Reed. Man, there was an impeccable conference there. And what I realized in that moment while I was there is all that stuff, all that crap I dealt with all these years, I was not alone. And that basically, it freed me, man. It freed me from all the pain. I've always had a relationship with God, right? Let's be clear on that part. But again, I didn't have that human connection with men per se to where I could just let it go. I'm not the only one dealing with stuff. So that conference changed my life, man. And I've been on a spiritual journey ever since, as far as letting anybody know that you are never invisible. You can carry all the weight that you want, but you got to release it. You got to release it. You can't do life by yourself.
Coach T.O., do you want to build on the He-Man tie between you, Stephen, Dr. Reed, etc.? Because I haven't been to the He-Man conference, but because of the people who did attend, I'm looking forward to seeing what that's all about. Because if it's the kind of brotherhood that the Orcas represent, then I think I want in.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking up back behind me now. That's what my sons got me for my birthday last year was a He-Man figurine. You know what I mean? They
Mm.
was like, Dad, this is you. You're a He-Man. And obviously with the movie just now coming out, as a young fella, watching He-Man and Captain Graves squalled all the good stuff, man. It kind of plays on that, but it's greater in he, and big crazy, crazy, crazy shout out to Dr. Albert T. Reed, man. because he coined the He-Man probably back in 2011. And when I met him, obviously he told me about the He-Man conference. Was like, hey man, his brothers just coming together. So yeah, definitely same Orca vibe, that true brotherhood, the same brotherhood we have as veterans. And yeah, I said, man, I'd like to go back home and you know open it up, man, to other fellows that I know. I think it could help. And Steve Miller was one of the first cats to walk through the doors. And I hadn't seen Steve in years because, like I said, going to the Marine Corps, Steve going to the Army, we hadn't seen each other in a very long time. But that initial embrace, man, I remember telling him, "Yo, you in the right place, bro." You know what I'm saying? And my other cousin that Steve knows very well, Jeremiah Bell, we call him YB, played in the NFL, Miami Dolphins, uh, the New York Jets, Arizona Cardinals, retired. He was there. He came through to break bread. My brother-in-law came through to break bread. Sweet Pea Burns, rest in power to Sweet Pea. He played for the Indianapolis Colts. And my other cousin, JD, Jason Dunn, played for the Philadelphia Eagles and ended up retiring from the Kansas City Chiefs. And last but not least, Coach Murray Garvin. Shout out to Murray Garvin, high school basketball coach. So as you could hear, a lot of good brothers in the room, and just opening up, man, just being real, being who we are. It's the same thing that we do every single day, fellas. Like JV said in his post last week, man, brothers checking on each other, brothers vulnerable enough to say, hey, bro, I don't understand this. Help me out, whatever the case. So uh, to see Steve come in the door and to see Steve today and being real enough to be on this platform to say, yeah, as a young fellow, I made a mistake, but I learned from it. That's the true message that I look at. When I read your chapter, Steve, I'm gonna be honest, man. Like it was like a surreal feeling for me. I read your personal book. Obviously, I got it in here over here on the shelf, but reading that particular chapter, that's something I didn't know. I didn't know that took place in your military career, but that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is, hey man, you took that and you turned that into a positive. And that's the message, man, that I really took, knowing in my heart that, hey, woe is me. I've made thousands of mistakes in a similar way, and we rebounded. So what's your thoughts, Robbie Leiter? What's your thoughts on it all?
Hey, peace, everybody. Once again, my name is Coach Rob Lytle. And for those of y'all just joining us, we're talking about this book right here, Born to Risk, the Veterans Inaugural Edition. And we have our guest here, Stephen Miller, that is sharing his story with us about how he made a mistake while serving in the Army. It's great to be here. I read the chapter, just like many of the other chapters in the book, I could relate to it being a veteran, and I can also relate to those temptations that are out there while you're out on leave and stuff like that, and things that happen to us and things that we go through. So I guess the question that I would pose to Stephen is I know that everything happens for our greater good, being a man of God, but I also know that during those trials and tribulations, we also have a lot of regret. So when you looked at that, and you write that one bad decision changed your life, but one conversation also changed your life with your mentor. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because you traveled down the road, you made a mistake, but you also had a transformational conversation that also got you back on the right road. You want to talk about that a little bit, please, sir?
Yeah, basically, man, I've learned that God doesn't use our victories. He uses our trials and tribulations to help others. And that's what I had to learn, man. I was ashamed for a long time, because again, I wanted to follow my mother's footsteps. So I let her down first and foremost. But at the end of the day, she didn't judge me, man. She didn't judge me. My family didn't judge me. But still, I wanted to follow in her footsteps. But I learned that God uses the least of these and the mistakes, the trials and tribulations for you to turn your story around and help other people. So when I ran into T.O. and Dr. Reed, man, like I said, we had breakout rooms. You had young men in there. You had men my age, you had older men in there. It was just a full mixture of men that had just been through a lot of stuff. And from that day on, like I said, I refuse to be quiet. I'm gonna tell my story everywhere I go because it's gonna help somebody. That's a lot of
Absolutely.
the challenges we have now as men. We keep things too bottled up, and it's only gonna destroy us at the end of the day if we continue to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you, man.
Man, that is so beautiful. It's ironic that your chapter in the Born at Risk Veterans Edition is right before mine. And the
Yeah,
title of my chapter is One Conversation.
yeah,
Because
dope.
one conversation with my mentor literally changed the trajectory of my life. And we'll
Yeah,
go into my chapter, in another one of these live sessions. But to build on what Robbie just said, you wrote, I realized that a destroyed path can be built. A failure does not define a man. The willingness to learn, grow, and rise again does. God uses the least likely, the broken, and the overlooked to fulfill his purpose. He wasn't looking for a perfect soldier, he was looking for a surrendered heart.
Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow,
Go
that's
ahead.
crazy,
Again,
bro. That's crazy.
now be the glory, man.
Mm.
So yeah, like I said, my path, I've been in leadership for 20 years since then, man. So ever since I got out, I got back in the government contracting, and I've been in leadership for 20 years. So he totally changed my life around. Started my own business, last year. Uh, the scene movement, everybody knows I advertise about that quite frequently, man. And again, it's the whole intent is to show people that they are valuable. Don't let one mistake, one detour in your life destroy your life. Use it to help somebody else.
Yeah, bro. I know
Absolutely.
Ross. Ross, you
And
got to run. I know you got to run, Ross. Hey, for those out there checking us out, Ross Blaine, a busy man, coaching football, getting ready for the season. So,
Yeah.
what's your parting words, brother, before you get out of here for good old Steve Miller?
Hey, Steve, man, continue to keep telling your story. Your testimony is impactful. Your chapter in the book is amazing. Just getting to see the face to the legend was impressive. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
man, I just like your testimony, man. You just being real. You know what I mean? You made a mistake. You learned from it. And you was able to build an empire from it, man. I mean, adversity, persevering through adversity is the name of the game, man. And it doesn't matter
Indeed.
how it hits you in the face. It's all about how you get back up. You know what I mean? It's no different when I have a young man, young 8, 9 year old get tackled, and you got to get back up, big dog, and
yeah.
go make
That's
a
right.
play. It's not about the play you didn't make. It's about the play you're gonna make on the next rep. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what you did, my man. You made a
Yes,
play,
sir.
and you continue to make plays on the next reps of life. And that's the
Yeah,
blueprint of life that we teach through sports, right? And you're living it through, obviously the situation you went through in uniform, but you've done bigger, better things thereafter, man. And again, that vulnerability that you're able to share and communicate in writing and in words is very impactful because that's real, that's authentic. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's
bro.
someone I'm going to listen to because he's not talking about how great he is. He's talking about his weakest or greatest risk. You know what I'm saying? That he went through in life and through the uniform. And
yes.
that's something that's very honorable, my brother. Very honorable. It takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of bravery to be able to put your stuff out there for those to absorb and learn and grow and become better. And that's what's important. I think every one of us here on this line respects that, man. That's something that we're all about, redemption, man, and getting back on our feet and continue to do something and make everybody we touch, any person that reads your literature, any person you encounter, you make them better just by talking with you. You know what I'm saying? I've learned a lot from you just in the last 15, 20 minutes, just overhearing your story, man. So again, you are transcendent and continue to keep doing what you're doing, my friend. All right. Sorry, fellas, I gotta run. I gotta go get these kids ready. Come here, young man. It's one of my star players right here. Say hi.
What's up, little buddy?
What's going on, buddy?
Hey,
Yes,
yes,
sir.
sir.
That's one of my
Play
nephews.
hard, little buddy.
No matter what color or race, I claim them all. You know what I mean? I'm trying to make a better nation, better society through love. You feel me? And that's the same love I
That's
see
right.
for all y'all, and I have all for all y'all. Okay, guys. So love y'all.
Amen.
God
Love you,
bless.
man.
I got to sign out,
Yeah.
but hey, Steven, I can't wait to meet you, shake your hand, and get kneecap to kneecap with you next week, my brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right,
man.
fellas. God
All
bless.
right, Ross.
brother.
Love you, bro.
Love
Love
y'all
you,
too.
man.
Wow, man. So how crazy is it that that Ross would say that in one of the closing chapters in your or one of the closing sentences in your chapter, you compared yourself to Noah. And we all know, those of us who uh, read and believe in the Holy Bible, the story of Noah and the trials and tribulations Noah went through. You said, like Noah in the Bible, I had a moment of weakness, suffered the consequences, and experienced redemption.
Mm.
Your redemption is on display every day. And what I love about you being so transparent is not running away from the mistakes or the mistake that you made. That moment of weakness could have altered the course of your life and sent you spiraling in a whole nother direction, but you didn't allow that to happen. Where does that resilience and your willingness to be used as a testimony to somebody else who may be down on themselves because they had a moment of weakness?
Yeah, Isaiah 43:1, man.
Mm.
God knows my name, brother. You know what I mean? And once I realize that, I ain't worried about what other people think, man. I'm here to pay it forward and give back to everyone else that's willing to listen, man. I know that I'm not the only one that's made mistakes, you know what I mean? And I'm just here to help out in the best way I can and give all the glory and honor to God.
And for those that don't understand what I was talking about, that mentor I was talking about is God, and that conversation
Yeah.
is what I was alluding to, which was through prayer. So I would ask you, going back down that, just reverting back to the question, you know, you made the mistake, you had the conversation with God, and then you recalibrated and started going down another path, getting yourself back together. So do you live with any regret, knowing what you know now? I know in hindsight it's 2020, but understanding that God had a plan all along, do you live with any regret?
Nah, I wouldn't change anything about it because it was teaching me, all the things that I've learned, during this road, man. Like I said, sometimes he will use your story, your
Mm.
brokenness, your worst moments to bless somebody else. So how can I have any regrets when I know that my story could potentially help so many other people?
Man, that's powerful, man. And that's what's the whole point is that I wanted to make with that, is because a lot of people, they get stuck at that
Yeah,
moment of friction. And then sometimes it leads them to making that permanent decision, for a temporary problem that we talk about, our 22 a day that, take their own lives in our community. So
yeah,
I just think it's amazing that you have a story of not just, okay, I made a mistake and I bounced back, but you bounce back the right way through
yeah,
redemptive practices, to recalibrating yourself, developing and becoming the person you needed to be, to
yeah.
make that happen. So that's why I think your story is so just powerful and redemptive.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Stephen, I'll tell you, man, you said something earlier about, your mom and following in your mom's footsteps.
Shout
And
out to Miss
then
Lofton.
absolutely, Miss Joanne Hawkins Lofton. We wanna extend our uh, just love to her for birthing the
Mm,
great Stephen Miller, right?
yes.
So your mom, right? I have this thing with my mom, and I think I've sensed that with you and our conversations since we first met. Talk about the disappointment that you personally felt, and
Mm,
then you mentioned it earlier about how your mom responded to that moment of weakness that you had. Because for me, one thing that I never want to do is disappoint my mother. I don't
mm.
want to embarrass my mama. That's a healthy fear that I've always carried with me. Man, if I do this, what is my mama gonna say?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you relate to that, or can you talk about that unique relationship between you, your mom, and then how your mom played a huge role in your redemption story?
Yeah, so my mother, she had me when she was 14, man. So we pretty much grew up together, man. And to see her resilience and the things she's been through and how she's overcome, you think my story is impeccable. Hers is impeccable, man. So I got a lot of respect, love for her. And she's never judged me, man. She's always supported me in everything that I've done. She's my biggest cheerleader alongside my wife as well. And I got some pretty dope women on my team, man.
It's awesome.
Wait a minute. Did you just say your mom had you at 14?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So your mom had you at 14 years old and still went on to proudly serve over 20 years in the United States Army and retired as a sergeant first class.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, bro.
Got a
So,
master's degree.
It's big time.
Got her education.
society oftentimes wants to throw away young people who make those kind of decisions, make adult decisions in their adolescence that leads to a pregnancy. So for a young woman to have a child at 14 and then her redemption story starts from there, it's no coincidence that
Yeah,
your own redemption story, you have somebody to look at and say, if she could overcome that kind of adversity, I certainly can overcome the kind of adversity that I've put myself into.
yeah.
Amen.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah.
Wow. That so that's not in the book, you guys.
Yeah.
Him that blows me away. And again, the full transparency in your storytelling, it makes it so relatable because I know there's somebody out there watching who has either had a child in their early in their mid to early teens, they know someone who's had a child in their mid to early teens, and then what society tends to do is demonize those folks and just harp on the mistake, the mistake,
Yeah.
the mistake, and not helping
Mm,
that individual get from that decision to where they can be. It doesn't define who they are. It just
Right.
becomes a part of the larger story. And
Yeah.
I, I want anybody out there listening to give young people some grace because we've
Yeah.
all messed up. We've all made mistakes, and it's not the end of the world if a young girl gets pregnant that early.
Yeah.
Now, naturally, we don't want that to happen. But if it does, it doesn't mean that she's done. Her life is over. No, you can look at Joanne Hawkins Lofton, who
Yeah.
had Stephen Miller at 14 years old, and say, nah, young lady, you still got a chance to thrive in this world.
Yeah.
Ah, there
Absolutely.
he is, Miss
That's the go
Joanne.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yo, that is,
Yeah.
ma'am, if you're listening, that is so
mm,
dope that you you embrace your son
man.
in the time of crisis that he was probably at his lowest. And it takes a certain kind of discernment to realize this ain't the time to pile on. This is the time to build. And
Amen.
that's what makes hearing and listening to this story so unique and so valuable. And we hope that it serves as an example to somebody else who has tripped up and made a mistake. And if it wasn't you, and if it's one of your loved ones, it's not a time to kick them. It's a time to lift them up. So, Miss Joanne, thank you so much.
And can I just throw this out there too? A lot of people, for those of us don't know, we're talking about this book right here, Born to Risk, Veterans Inaugural Edition, and we have our guest here, Stephen Miller, that shared his story. And a lot of people might see this and like, well, what's the big deal? He just smoked a little bit of marijuana dealing in this day and age. But they don't understand, just like such as DUI and things like that. In the military, it's a cardinal sin. You know, marijuana is just up there with heroin or any other, you know, restrictive drug. So it's career ending. It ain't like a slap on the wrist. Oh, he smoked some weed and he's just gonna get, you know, clean up the laundry room and that's the end of his thing. That's career ending. So it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of it's a life changing event, and you had to make a lot of decisions very quickly. And I'm sure at the time you had a lot of regret. So that's why I bring up that question about regret, because now you're sitting here with pretty much zero regret, where I'm sure at the time you was just kicking yourself in the rear end, man, especially with that question that Stu just asked, you know, what is Mom Dukes going to think when I get back home after she's successfully laid down this blueprint for me. And now I got to go home and tell her that and she knows what it is. It ain't like you can just say, well, the command did this. No, Mom knows. So they ain't no throwing no smoke up nobody's eyes, no nothing. So you had to really had a rough conversation. And I think obviously she responded exactly in the right way at the right time, man.
Yeah,
And I'm sure
absolutely.
there were some hard conversations too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, but you know, like I said, there was no judgment, man. I
Man,
just had to continue to stay focused, man, and dig out of the hole I had made. So, yeah,
and you've done it, man. And you continue to do it, brother.
yeah. Thank you.
What's so impressive is owning what you did. It wasn't nobody else's fault. You didn't put the blame on nobody else. You said, nah, dog, this is me. I dug this hole for myself and I need to figure out a way to get out of it. And
Yeah,
I really appreciate
Mm,
the acceptance of accountability for our actions. And I know the four of us on here, we have all dug holes for ourselves in one aspect of our lives, whether it's our personal
mm,
relationships, our social relationships, or our professional relationships. And what I've seen uh, is a lot of people deflect and blame everybody else instead of looking at the person in the mirror and saying, you know what? I own that. That's me. I did
Indeed.
that. And I really appreciate how honest and transparent you are in order to help somebody else know it's okay to own or be accountable for the mistakes that you've made in your life. It doesn't
That's right.
define you, but it starts with ownership.
That's right.
And I,
absolutely.
I really appreciate that about not just this story in the Born to Risk Veterans Edition book, but just in our conversations on
Yeah,
other podcasts and live events. I didn't know the depths of the story, but I got a sense just sitting listening at you talk about why you are the way you are, and I
yeah,
really
mm.
appreciate that.
yeah. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Shout out to Craig Lyles. Shout out
I
to
seen
Craig
that.
Lyles.
Yeah, thank
Craig
you, man.
Lyles got game, boy. Craig Lyles got real game. You know what I'm saying? Get on the court with Craig Lyles, Coach Robbie Lytle, and he can ball.
Hey,
That cat D1
mm.
material for real. Shout out to Craig Lyles, man.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you,
sir.
Craig, for tuning in. We appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, Stephen, all in all, what is the false paradise? I've read the chapter 5, 10 times. I
Yeah,
understand what the false paradise is, but for someone who hasn't purchased a copy of the Born to Risk Veterans Edition with Stephen Miller right here featured in chapter 23, kind of give them a little insight in what that false paradise is for you and why you titled the chapter a false paradise.
yeah. So false paradise is it's a slang term for marijuana, but I wanted to take it a little bit deeper. You know, it's basically an illusion, man. It's a mental illusion that where we feel like we got to escape at times to understand who we are, or to feel valuable and things like that. And this is not true. It's exactly what it is. It's false. You know what I mean? It's a false illusion.
Man.
Coach T.O., how does that false illusion and the false paradise fit into the things that you advocate for in your leadership coaching uh, your emphasis and focus on the number 7 and your 7-step process. How do those two things tie in?
First and foremost, Professor Steve Maynard, man, you are an amazing host, bro. Like
Yes.
for real, bro. Like I'm in the presence of greatness right now. So, uh, man, I just thank you, man. I thank you for your insight. I mean, you're a professor, man. You're standing up at a university teaching every single day. And it's a pleasure for all of us, man, to be in your presence today, brother, first and foremost. And I can see the love that you have, man. You know, it's no coincidence that God brought you two together side by side, two Steves, you know, chapters back to back, man. It's special. And it's so crazy because if I'm back home and I'm talking to Steve Miller, the first name I would think, man, I know a cat named Stu Maynard from Folkestone, Georgia. One of the realest cats I ever met in my entire life. Man, we've been over that water together. We've been around the world together, Stu. So I really appreciate you, man, tonight, for bringing this to life, man, because for Mrs. Joanne and all the family back home, man, it means so much, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, I know Robbie, you know, out of Asheville, North Carolina, it's like when you go back home, man. You know, that's something that's ingrained in the heart. No matter how far you go in life, there's nothing like home. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Same
Yes.
goes for you, Stu. So Steve's success, man, is it's just such a blessing. And you know, I think of that light, man, as we always talk about. You know, the 5 pillars of light, man. The love, the intellect, greatness, health, and truth. And Steve embodies all of that, man, and song, and a bag of chips. You know what I mean? We was just talking before we went on the stream live, man. Steve been married. What is it, Steve? 28 years coming up.
Yeah, yeah,
Shout
yeah.
out to LaQuanda, man. You know, his wife LaQuanda, man. Like,
Mm.
you know, it's those emotional moments, bro. You know what I'm saying? To see his example, you know, and that's what we all about, fellas, man. We love one another for real. And anybody that's ever out there that see us together, they could feel that love. They could see that truth, the greatness. I mean, here we got soon to be Dr. Robert Lytle, man, working on his dissertation. You
Yep.
know, here in a couple months, you're going to be Dr. Robert Lytle. Like for me, just to be in the presence, man. You know, you talked about it, Stu, earlier. You said, man, I had the family reunion, all my wife's family at the house. I wasn't really on social media. I wasn't worrying about posting. I was just present in the moment, bro. Like, dog, that touched my heart to hear you say that today, earlier on the phone, because that's something as brothers, you know, we have to do, man. You know, I'm what, today's the 4th. I'm 6 days away from being 50 years old, man,
Mm.
and it still ain't hit me. You know, it's like, damn, bro. What, you know, Joe Clay, my pops used to always say, man, time flies. Where did the
Mm.
time go? You know, and I look back and it's just like, man, that journey, you know, Steve, like we said, man, he made a mistake, bro, but it's all in God's alignment, man.
Yeah.
It's all in God's alignment. And when I read his chapter again, man, for the second time, it just really hit home for me in the sense of really hitting home, like, bro, like
Yeah.
to see what Steve has accomplished and that vulnerability that you talked about. That's real greatness, dog. Like Ross Blaine said, if you can't own up to your mistakes, dog, who are you for real?
Yeah.
If you constantly hiding in you know the closet, it ain't real enough to say, man, what God's done for you, bro. Like, come on, man. And that's all Steve is saying, man, in his chapter. He's saying it in his merch, scene where 2 or 3 gather, God's in the midst. I
Mm.
remember when he first called and told me, he was like, man, the Lord put it in my spirit, T.O. Clay, Neil, as he know me back home, he was like, yo, where 2 or 3 gather. And I said, bro, that's it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, bro, that's it. Like Ross said with the little young fella, it crosses all boundaries, bro. You know, there's I don't care if you white, black, Puerto Rican, no matter Russia, whatever. That's truth in that saying, yo. We all know it. Where 2 or 3 gather, God is in the midst.
Yeah.
So it plays, you know, all within God, man. Like, you know, I could see Steve on Facebook. I could see him in person. I can run into him, at the mall, and it's always gonna be that same sentiment, man. That's a man striving for righteousness, dog. Nobody's out here ever claiming to be perfect.
Yeah.
But if you wake up every single morning, like I know you fellas truly do, man, and so many other of our brothers and sisters that will be on this platform, man, sharing their story. I'm with you, bro. If you
Yeah.
walk trying your best to walk in righteousness, man, like why wouldn't I open my heart and cling to that, man? Because that's going to help me be a better person. So that's what it's all about, Stu. Great
Absolutely.
question though, brother. Great question.
Oh, all right. So, Stephen, tell us about the gear, the merch, the products, everything you're involved in now, so that people they're getting a little taste in the Born to Risk book, but this is just a very small part of all the awesome things that you're in, the love that you're showing in helping others overcome adversity in the leadership space. Give us kind of a rundown of where people can find your merch, buy your merch, and what it means to you uh, to come forward and present this scene, because seeing the word "scene" on a shirt immediately invokes questions.
Yeah.
Seen what? So
Yeah.
at least in my mind, what is the underlying message in the simple word "seen"?
Yeah. So SEEN is a movement and it stands for seen, equipped, empowered, and needed. So basically once you realize your identity, which means seen, you become equipped. So all the trials and tribulations that you've been through in your life, you become equipped, which is the first E. After you understand that, you become empowered, right? So you become a person like me who's not afraid to tell their story because you understand your identity, you understand that
Mm,
you're equipped, and now you're empowered. And once you understand that, last but not least, you understand that you're needed, right? You're needed in this world to make an impact. So that's what seeing means, and it's expressed through wearing the message, whether it's apparel, uh, brotherhood, community, podcasting, speaking engagements, and or leadership coaching currently. Yes, sir.
And where can people go if they want to find your merch, they want to find your books and some of the other things? I think it's scrolling at the bottom of the screen, but just
Yeah, you
again
can go
for,
to
for
you can go to whereworship.com or iam-scene.com.
where
iam-scene.com.
whereworship.com, I am
Dot
seen.com.
com. Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah.
I told you earlier I had some stuff in my shopping cart,
Yeah.
but after being in this conversation, I need to go ahead and press the purchase button. And maybe it was divine. I was waiting for this moment, this opportunity to go even further in depth with why you are the way you are, why you think the way you think. And it really did help me get a greater understanding for what adversity really taught you and how it has allowed you to move from where you were to where you are now and where you're going to be further
Yeah.
down the line in the future. And again, is this a hype session? Yes, it is.
yeah.
We want to honor the co-authors in this Born to Risk Veterans Edition book because of the intimate relationships that we have with each other. We've known each other, and by default, I feel like I've known you because you know To, and I've
Yeah.
known To more than 20 years. And these
Yeah.
relationships go so deep.
Yeah.
So if it makes you feel odd that we are really like showering you with praise and adulation, we are, brother.
That's it. And that's that. No
Because
strings attached.
no, we
Yeah.
Just
That's
we
for the
not
real.
love.
getting we not getting a cut of the profit. No,
Nah,
we
bro.
just want people to build learn about these genuine relationships that have been built over the course of a
Yes.
number of years. And if somebody goes to Stephen Miller's website and makes a purchase, great.
Boom.
That's
Yeah.
what we want.
Yeah.
That's what
That's a
we want,
fact, bro.
because the significance of the things you're doing is that impactful. And I just want to say thank you, brother, for being here with us. This is the first of many live broadcasts that we're going to be doing over the next couple of days leading up to the Born to Risk event in Virginia Beach, because we want to highlight, and we often, brothers, we don't often do a good job of telling other brothers like how dope they are.
Boom.
Indeed.
And you being in the presence of all of these guys, I tell Robbie and T.O. all the time how great I think they are. And they do the same for me. And we don't feel no kind of way about it, because it's just genuine love
Boom.
for each other. And
That's
that
it,
don't mean
man.
we co-sign on everything that's done or said. Out of love, we'll tell each other, hey, bro, no, I don't think you need to be doing that.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
telling you
Yep.
that because I love you, and I don't want to see you thrown off the path that you're on, getting distracted with whatever situation may be. But we do it because we love each other. And I just want to say, from me to you, Stephen, brother, I love you. I love what you're doing. And I want you to stay encouraged
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir.
doing the
Love you.
things that you're doing, because it is making a difference in the lives of people.
Thank you
You
so
are a
much.
good host, too.
Yeah, bro. It's a fact.
It's
Well,
It's a
natural.
thank you.
fact, bro.
The
Thank you.
communicator, boy.
I'm trying, and fellas, I have not always done a good job of telling people how I felt about them.
Right.
But Stephen and I were on a podcast last week, and I talked about a funeral that I went to. I went to a funeral of my dear brother Armando Vickers,
Mhm.
early
Mhm.
40s, and he died last year. Going to that funeral really touched me in a way that I don't think a lot of other funerals have before. And I've been to funerals of friends and brothers that I've gained through the years in the Marine Corps, but that funeral hit me different. Maybe it was seeing his young kids there and sitting beside another brother that I hadn't saw in about 10 years, and we just talked. And I said, from this day forward, I'm going to make it my mission to be more openly expressive and
Mhm.
showing my my love and appreciation for the people that I'm fortunate enough to have relationship with. And it's genuine relationships that allows me to be so open and so vulnerable. And I don't know why it took so long for the shield, so to speak, to be removed, but
Yeah.
I don't feel that anymore. Matter of fact, I don't care.
Right.
Or I care so much that I feel the need to tell you how much I love you and how much I appreciate you.
Yeah, that's real, bro. That's
Yeah.
real, bro. Come on, man.
No doubt.
Check this out, fellas. You got seen, equipped, empowered, needed, love, intellect, greatness, health, and truth. Teach, influence, mentor, equip, and communicate to lead, bro.
Mm.
Dog,
That's
when
what's
you
up,
when
man.
when you put that recipe together, bro, you know what I'm saying? It could only embark greatness. You know what I mean? Like you said earlier, Steve. I know you mean every word coming out of your mouth in terms of, yo, I love Steve Miller, bro. Like I really do. You know what I'm saying? And I know, man, Steve feels the same. I know Robbie feels the same. Ross feels the same. Beatrice feels the same. Eddie Arce feels the same. Louis Alicio feels the same. Jonathan Borders, Evan Janvier, Aubrey McDade. We could keep naming them. Robin
All
Fortner,
day.
Vinny Cochran, dog,
Kim
like
Mosley.
Kim Mosley, man. Just so many,
Mm.
Imhotep Woodby, BG, AB. We could name these individual veterans, man, that all came together
All
in the name.
co-authors in the Born the Risk.
Absolutely. It came together in this right here, bro. The greatness, the love, the equipping, the influencing, you know, the empowering, you know, and it's being displayed every single day. You know what I mean? We literally can come on and stream you all, and we could talk about a whole lot of crap.
Yeah.
Think about it, man. Like it, and this ain't always the most sexy. You know, cats that come on, oh, they talking about books. Choom, they gone. They come on, oh man, I don't know these cats. You know, they ain't got 500K followers. It could be whatever, man. But we know God gave us this assignment, bro. We've seen God interweaving all throughout. You
Yes.
know, come next weekend when we all embark on the journey of being in Virginia Beach, it's going to be that same love, bro. It's going to be, you know, a environment that, man, when you got that much creativity coming together, that much experience, that much, you know, expectation, just in terms of I want to be there and be my brother's keeper, be my sister's keeper. That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah.
So man, it's Steve, it's a pleasure uh just to be amongst you, man. And I'm just so happy to see your mother smile, bro. You
Yes.
know, just to see your mother smile, man.
Yeah.
That means the world to me, bro. You
Yeah.
know, so it's awesome, man. Any closing words, Robbie, before we get up out of here, bro? What you got?
You know, I just think it's important just to capitalize on the idea that, you know, God didn't cause the mistake. He just refused to let it be wasted, man. And he
Indeed.
refused to let it be wasted through the works, you know, whether you call it the ministry or whatever you want to call it, Steve, man, you're doing some great work out there, man, not just in your writing and your materials, but just in your servitude, brother. I mean,
Yeah.
you've taken the lessons that you learned as an army medic and become a published author, and now you're out here on the grind on a podcast with three E9s in the Marine Corps talking about leadership, brother.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, the
Yeah.
mistake it's not a mistake. You see what I'm getting at? It's
No
just a
doubt.
part of the journey, baby.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, Stephen. Any last closing thoughts you want to leave the viewers, audience members with before we roll out?
Yeah, just always remember, man, that your mistakes, you know, you can bounce back from that. Just keep your eyes focused. Take one day, one step at a time. Everything will work itself out. I definitely appreciate the opportunity, fellas, to get on here and tap into my story a little
Man,
bit. Thank you for the platform. This is true brotherhood in real form, no doubt. And I love you all, man.
love you
Man,
too,
we
brother.
love you too, brother. How special is it that you're the first one that we're doing this with?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Uh,
this is,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Now,
yeah,
we are, Robbie just said it. You on the platform with three E9s, all Marines talking to a soldier.
That's
yeah.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
About alignment, man. Alignment, brother.
There it
Yes,
it
is.
sir.
is alignment, man. It
All
is,
right,
brother.
guys. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Orcas Inc., Coach T.O. Clay, Coach Robbie Lytle,
Man,
the mentor himself, Ross Blaine, myself, Professor Steve Maynard. Thank you for joining us. We're going to do this again tomorrow night. We're going to have another guest, another featured co-author who is going to share their story, just like our brother Stephen Miller did here this evening. If you haven't gotten your copy of the Born to Risk Veterans Edition, you go to my website. Stephen Miller has it on his website. Get the book. Don't just get the book for yourself. Get it for somebody else, because I
Indeed.
guarantee you, there's a story in this book that
mm-hmm.
will absolutely resonate with someone you know, or it will resonate with you.
Veteran or
Coach Theo?
not.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
man. Love you, man. Hey, thank you, Stu, for blessing the mic. Man, I love you, Steve. Like I said, hey man, don't be a stranger. Hey, you're more than welcome to come and build. You know, as we move forward, anytime, you know that. Looking forward to seeing you, brother. Shout
Yes,
out to
sir.
Dangon, all the family. Shout out to Quan, the grandbabies. Win
Yeah.
City. We love y'all, man, as we always say. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.